And I caught the lad again, first round, right hand, knocked him out. So I had 2 first-round knockouts in the same night. I mean, it doesn't really get much better.
Amazing, yeah.
And there's not many people can say they're in business with their dad as well. But I went out there to Vegas and had a week in fight camp.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just fell in love with it, and I've never fell out of love with it. I had over 90 fights, so it was a lot of amateur fights. In this current day and age, living on an island, it's very hard to get fights. I thought I need to perform here because I'm in with a good crop. And I was bout number 6, and all of our guys had won. It's really, really weird. It sounds really corny. When he came through that arrival call in Jersey, it's as if we'd known each other forever. Some of the people that trained with then still train with us now, which is 19 years on. It's crazy.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Sportscast Jersey. Today we are joined by BoxinBusiness founder Ben Murray. How are you doing, Ben? How was your Christmas?
Yeah, it was good, Dan. Good. Thanks for having me on. It's been a long time coming. We keep trying to get this on, but we finally got round to it. Christmas was lovely. Nice time with the family, nice bit of time out, and got away somewhere for New Year's Eve, which was nice. So we've now come back to the madness of January in the old gym game. So it's all good, mate. It's all good. How's things with you?
Good stuff. Yeah, not bad, mate. Not bad. Quiet over the Christmas. Good to have a break, but yeah, it's good. It's good to be back and getting stuck into the podcast again. It's been a long time coming, as you say, and a long time coming getting you on. Let's talk about taking it way back for you personally. Where did the love for boxing start?
Do you know what? The love for boxing started. I mean, I'd done gymnastics since I was the age of 4. And when it got to about I was 10 or 11, I was starting to fall out of the love with it, if I'm honest. But mum and dad were always one of those that I've always done gym for so long. We wanted something else to fill that void. So they just want me to stop altogether. So my dad was going to Vegas to watch one of our friends, Billy Schwer, fighting for a world title. I was 11 at the time, and he took me with him. So I went out there to Vegas and had a week in fight camp, and I wasn't boxing at the time, wasn't interested in boxing, but our mate was fighting and he really looked after us. And the whole event there really got my juices flowing. I thought, do you know what? I fancy just seeing the whole MGM set up and things like that. There's obviously a lot I couldn't do in Vegas at that age, but it was good to be there. So came back, and then I remember the day we were at Half the Par bathing pool, and one of my mates who was just flicking over with boxing, really, he was leaving the beach to go to the gym up at South Hill. And no one else was there, so I decided, do you know what, I'll come with you. So I went up there, and I remember sitting in South Hill and watching, and the late great Dave Thompson came over and said to me, do you want to join in? At that point I didn't. I was always really shy. I'm not shy anymore, but that's just due to sport and sort of business. I've had to change the way I am, but I was always the one at the back of the room and just didn't have any confidence. But boxing brought that out of me in the end. And Dave said, do you want to join in? But I didn't. About 15-20 minutes in, I decided I was going to join in, and without sort of blowing smoke up my own backside, I actually took to it really quick. He noticed as well. So done that session, and then he said, look, come up again whenever you feel like it. And that was me hooked. I'm one of them people in business and everything that I'm 100%, I'm all or nothing. And that was me with boxing. They couldn't get rid of me in the end. I was a gym rat. I was there, first one in the door, last one out the door. I'd be there before school. I'd be there after school. I was obsessed with it.
Yeah.
I really found the passion, you know. I really, really, really enjoyed it. And it was just something, I don't know, maybe I was made to do it. But I think the boxing side, I think the reason I took to boxing so easy was as well because of my gymnastics background. A lot of young kids, any parents out there that have got kids that want to do something to start, as a grounding, I would always say gymnastics. Balance, coordination, flexibility, strength. I mean, all of them encapsulated. You can then go to any sport.
Yeah.
get that basis and you can go to any sport. And I think that's why I picked up the boxing so quick.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just fell in love with it, and I've never fell out of love with it.
Yeah, exactly. It's still going every day since. I wanted to touch on, before we go into your titles, your dad as well. Obviously, he's a big part of the boxing business still now. How good is it, and how inspirational is he for you?
Oh, massive. Me and him, we're best mates. We fall out every now and again, but that's what best mates do, isn't it? I mean, we're best mates, we're business partners, and there's not many people can say they're in business with their dad as well. So I know he's got my back, and I've always got his back. So yeah, he's been a massive influence and inspiration in my life. Always supported me in everything I've ever done. Sometimes, even if it seemed a bit aloof and a bit mad, and he was thinking, "Oh, I don't know," he would tell me that.
Yeah.
But if I feel like it's the right thing, then I'm quite strong-minded like that. I'll go and do it. And then he's always the first to come to me and say, "Do you know what? Fair play, it worked." But I think the other good thing with him is that he brings me straight down to earth. He was always my biggest critic, like myself when I was boxing. He would always say if I'd done well, and then I knew I'd done well.
Yeah.
But if for some reason I started to get a bit carried away with myself and big fish in a small pond syndrome, he was always the one nicely to pull me back down to earth. And I think that's one thing that really got me through what I was doing with boxing and stuff. I was never really getting carried away with anything that was going on. So yeah, business-wise and personally as well, I can bounce anything off him if I'm honest. My mum as well. My mum's there. She's phenomenal. She sits in the background, but again, if there's anything needs to be said, she's the boss at the end of the day. And if there's anything needs to be said, she'll say it. And then without going through everything. But my wife, she's so supportive. There was years in business and sport. When I got with Jade, I was training 3 times a day. I would see her for a couple of hours at night or whatever like that. And then once I finished boxing, it never changed with work. I was at work, stupid hours again, just working myself into the ground basically. But she was always there to support me, always got me through. And now I'm starting to find that work-life balance a little bit now. So behind every good man's a strong woman. So that's
definitely. Let's touch on your boxing career. Obviously, it was quite successful. Multiple Southern and Western County titles. I'm going to ask you 2 questions. What was probably your favourite fight that you entered the ring and fought? And what was your biggest win? Or are they the same?
Do you know what? I had a couple of fights that really jump out. I had over 90 fights, so it was a lot of amateur fights. In this current day and age, living on an island, it's very hard to get fights. When I was competing at the time, I was in the ABAs. I never got any junior ABA or tournament experience, but when I got into the seniors, I was competing sort of 9-10 fights a season, which is unheard of now living on an island. In the UK, you could be fighting every week, but Jersey was different. But I was fortunate with Leona's that they gave me the chance. I was always in the UK fighting, competing. And if you do well in the championships, you've obviously got to fight a couple of times. One fight that sticks out, well, there's a couple. It's so hard to break it down, but one of the ABA ones, for example, there was a lot of people in my weight class and I had to go to the UK and fight in the UK. And I ended up having to have 2 fights on the same night, which isn't unheard of in my weight class because lightweight at 60 kilos was really popular. So I went over to Dorset and we had to fight Southern Counties first. And I remember going first fight of the night. There was 15 fights. They put me on first fight and last fight. Went in first fight and I was never a massive puncher, but I got a few stoppages. But I went in and I stopped the lad in the first round with a couple of left hooks. And I remember stopping him and coming out and going, "Oh, wow, I never really thought that was going to happen." And then I was last fight of the night and I went in. And because I had hit the lad in the fight before with left hooks, I think they had watched me and thought, stay away from his left hook. He walk onto my right hand and I caught the lad again, first round, right hand, knocked him out. So I had 2 first round knockouts in the same night. I mean, it doesn't really get much better.
Amazing, yeah.
And I've got that on video, actually. My son, Bo, watched it a couple of months ago. We've got it on video, which is it's good to have it. Yeah. It's on VCR, though. That's how old I am. It's on a, you've got to put it in, and it's a bit fuzzy.
Yeah.
And you can hear it rewinding from Gorey. But yeah, that's one. And then another one was when I went out to the States. I went out to America. I went out there twice, actually. Once with Leonas and once with, it was an Irish international team. And it was the Olympic coach, Jerry Story, who took us out there. And I only got on that team because I performed really well at Lorison against the top Irish lads. Bear in mind, he that night. But they took me to America, and I had 7 days in America, in Philadelphia. We got to meet Joe Frazier. We got to meet everyone. It was phenomenal. And on that team was a young Tyson Fury. He was 18. We had a young Ryan Burnett, who was 14. There was Sonny Upton and Stephen Ward, Stephen Ward's gone on to win a European title. Sonny Upton went on to win British, I think. Yeah. There was a couple of others on there, but the ones that stood out was Ryan Burnett. He went on to win 2 world titles as a pro, had to retire back. And then obviously Tyson Fury needs no introduction. And that was like, we had a week with them, and that was phenomenal, the experience. But I also knew what sort of caliber I was in. I knew who I was mixing with. And they put me in against an American lad called Julio Berry, and I remember his name. And I thought, I need to perform here because I'm in with a good crop. And I was about number 6, and all of our guys had won. Yeah. So there was no pressure. There's
pressure, yeah.
So I had to go out and put on a good performance. And it was one of my best, I think. I did perform well. And then to top it off that night, Layla Ali, Muhammad Ali's daughter, was presenting the trophies. Yeah. So it was a bit of a weird one. Like, that whole trip was
amazing for a boy from Jersey just to go and mix with those kind of people as well, I bet.
Yeah, it was incredible. And the reason it was even better was that it was just at the end of the season. So I'd had my last fight in Jersey, which I thought was my last fight. So as a boxer, what you do is you go out and you put weight on and you have a few drinks. You do what you wouldn't normally do. But then I remember a Sunday night, I was in my freezing cold flat, and Dave Thompson phoned me and said, Jerry Story's invited you to America for a week, but you've got 6 days. And I was like, well, I'll do it. Didn't even cross my mind. I was like, I'll do it. Bear in mind, I've been in camp and stuff anyway. My dad tells the story now. Literally put the phone down, got my clothes on and went for a run. And then that was it for like 6 days. It was all about weight cutting, dropping weight. So it was quite a quick sort of turnaround to then go to Belfast, fly to Philadelphia and have a week there. And yeah, I mean, it's something that I'll never, ever forget. Amazing.
One fight I do want to mention is you stepped in the ring with Anthony Crawler. You're good mates now. He comes over with the BoxinBusiness as well. How was that experience to fight, and how good is it to know him on a personal level now?
Do you know what? It was great. It was great, and it wasn't great because, like, when I fought Anthony, I was meant to be going into the quarterfinals of the ABAs, which are national championships. But what they've done is, because it was a year of the Commonwealth Games, they stuck in an extra, so it was a pre-quarter.
Yeah.
So back then, the prerequisite to get into the Commonwealth Games for Jersey was you had to reach quarterfinals. So that would have been my quarters, but they stuck in a pre-quarter. I came up against Crawler, and it was just like, so I don't know why I'm his friend, if I'm honest, because he ruined my chance to go to Melbourne. I should have went to Melbourne for the Commonwealths, but that's another night. You know, like, we boxed in Liverpool, and on that night there was Tony Bellew, there was David Price, there was Anthony Agogo, who went on to win Olympic gold. Stephen Smith. I boxed Crawler, and then underneath me there was so many names on that show and that bit. And I've got the program, and I looked through the list, and I'm like, wow, there was like 4 Olympians, 6 world champions. Unfortunately, I wasn't any of them, but I was the only one from my district, my area, to get into that. I didn't know how good he was, if I'm honest, going into the fight. I still remember it. My mum and dad were in Thailand at the time on holiday, so they would normally come, but they weren't there. And I went into the fight, and I thought I was doing really well. First round, he still says it now, even though we're mates. I bust his nose in the first round, The ref stopped it a couple of times to clean it up.
Yeah.
And then he stopped it again in the third. And I thought, result, I've won this because his nose has gone. But what it was back then, there was a 20-point must system. And what it is, if you go 20 points behind, so there was a new system. If you go 20 points behind, they stop the fight. So they stopped the fight. And I was like, I've won it. I'm through. Great. But lo and behold, to me, he'd hit me more times than I hit him. But it was a decent fight. It was a great fight. And it's just so weird how sport, not only boxing, but sport makes these friendships. I mean, he's my best mate. And we didn't talk. So after that fight, I remember phoning my parents in tears in Thailand. And I thought I was going to Commonwealth Games and I missed out. But I remember after the fight, it's so weird how boxers can remember everything. I remember him coming out into the outside the changing rooms. And we had a quick chat, but I didn't really want to talk because I was angry. Imagine. And then we disappeared. And that was 2005. We didn't speak again, not because we fell out. We just didn't know each other. We didn't speak again until 2017, right?
Really?
And that was because of the white collar. A guy that I know said, look, do you need a guest of honor for the white collar? And I was like, well, we don't, but it'd be nice if we could get someone. So they gave me Anthony's number. And I said to the guy, look, I fought him, phoned him up, had a chat, sorted it out. And then him and his wife came over, his fiance at the time, came over to Jersey. And it's really, really weird. It sounds really corny. When he came through that arrivals hall in Jersey, it's as if we'd known each other forever.
Yeah.
And one that knows Anthony will know he's one of the nicest guys around, and he'll talk to anyone, and he'll make you feel welcome and important and special. But him and his wife had a real similarity to my wife as well, and they were into the same sort of things, and it was just really weird how it all clicked into place. So they came over for the first one, then they came back the year after, and then ever since then we've become really good friends. A few holidays together and stuff. I'm actually going to Manchester next week for Chris Eubank against Liam, and Anthony's coming. He's got us a ticket. So yeah, I mean, not only boxing, but I'm sure you spoke to so many people involved in sport that friends have been made through sport. It's crazy.
It's brilliant. It's one of the best things about sport. Going on to boxing business, where did that start? Do you remember like setting it up, and then do you remember the very first class?
I do actually, yeah. It's really mad that you should ask me that, because before we even spoke last week to get this sorted, I was chatting to an old, he wouldn't thank me for that. Someone comes to the gym who started back then with us. Basically, I qualified in 2004 as a personal trainer. And then just then I had this sort of entrepreneurial sort of, I wanted to do something different. I just didn't want to be a personal trainer. So I remember 2005, I started doing boxing classes, circuit boxing type stuff at South Hill Boxing Gym. And I was charging £2 a session. And then all of a sudden it started growing. And that was 2005. And like some of the people that trained me then still train with us now, which is 19 years on. It's crazy. So that was 2005. And then in sort of 2008, 2009, my dad said to me, I think we should start trying to like get somewhere. And I remember going to Fort Regent, and there was a small corridor on top of the rotunda area. And it was just nothing there. It was just a corridor. Yeah. Gave me that space as a gym. And I was like, really? But Dad, being an internal optimist in that sense, thought, do you know what, we can make that work. We looked at it, put up some scaffolding, put up some bags. And then before you know it, it was busy all the time. We were fully booked. But I remember the first session up there, and I was like, we'll put it on, but we got 18 people in the first session, and I couldn't believe it. I was blown away. And we used to do some crazy stuff up there, where we had we never had a booking system. So whoever turned up. So we some nights we could have 5, we could have 6, we could have 20. So you plan a session, and then a lot more people show up, and you just sort of think on the spot. And I think that's where the personal training element, the boxing element, and everything else comes into it. You just got to think outside the box a little bit, really. So that was it. We started in a small corridor, and that was about 2008, 2009. And then 2011, we opened a small gym on Stopford Road called BB Fitness. We were there for 5 years. That was amazing. We had small boxing ring upstairs, personal trainers working downstairs. And that was the start of like growing the business a little bit. I've always been one to start small and then grow rather than big and then have to scale it down a little bit. I've always wanted to start like that. And then 2013, we moved from the corridor at the fort into the large area we're up to now in there. We were trying to get that for ages. And once we got that, we never looked back. The class numbers started continuing to grow. It was just something different. There's a lot of people doing it now on the island. But back then there was no one. So we started the ball rolling, doing stuff there. And then so that was 2013 and we're actually still there now. 2019. I closed in 2016 in Stopford Road, had a holding gap really, and then opened up the new premises on Grenville Street, which was bigger than I wanted to go, but it was a sort of jump that I had to do. Financially, it stretched the life out of me. Mentally, physically, it stretched the life out of me. But we've done it, and it's the best thing I've ever done in my life. And sometimes in life, when you're forced into a situation and you do it, it works out for the best. I think sometimes you just got to roll the dice a little bit. And I feel like that's what I done. I had a bit of it was a calculated risk. I thought it could go wrong, but there was more towards the side of it could go right. So that was that was amazing. And we're obviously still there now. But on that note, with Boxing Business, when I opened in 2019, as we all know, it was a year of COVID. And I'd never seen that coming. No one ever did. So basically, cut a quick, long story short, I opened up. I done a soft launch. I got my PTs in for 1 week, just see how it runs. Then I did a couple of classes and the PTs for a week. And then third week, we opened up our juice bar. So we had juice bar, PT and classes on a small scale, just running all together. After week 3, I said, right, we're good to go. We're going to go all out. And I opened up on the Monday. It was crazy busy. Tuesday, crazy busy. Wednesday, COVID. And all doors were closed. And I remember now, Dan, I was sat there. I had spent all this money on the facility. Thought, right, we're good to go now. And I remember sitting in that juice bar. Everyone had gone. That was my last day. I looked outside. Someone was giving me a parking ticket at the time as well, which I wasn't best about. But I actually just sat there crying my eyes out. I remember sitting there in tears because I'd spent all my life savings on that to get that where it was. I didn't know how long we were going to be closed for. I didn't know if we were going to get any help. I didn't know if I was going to be able to do it. My rent still had to be paid. My mom, my kids, my family. I didn't know. So I remember sitting there and sobbing my heart out in the juice bar for about 10, 15 minutes. I remember locking that door thinking, I don't know if I'm ever going to open these doors again. Because I'd been 3 weeks soft launch. But we're still here. We exactly. Do you know what? We'll go on to that, I'm sure, with COVID. But it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And it sounds crazy, but it was.
It was uncertainty, I think, for everybody that hit with COVID. What happened in COVID, in lockdown, is you actually got teamed up with the government and you helped Islanders stay fit. You did a few online classes. How good was that? How good was that experience to even branch your name out even more like that?
Yeah, do you know what? It was on a personal note, business note, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And when people say, what are you talking about? You were closed for 10 weeks and we couldn't leave the house and we couldn't do this, we couldn't do that. But for me, when we first got closed, I remember sitting there and I've always been a bit rational at that. And I said to my wife, I said, I am not doing anything for 10 days. And when I say anything, I'm not, everyone's like, you need to go outside, do outdoor classes. You need to do this, you need to do that. I'm not doing anything. And I remember just closing my laptop, closing everything, and then just taking time to actually think and right, what am I going to do? How am I going to go about this? So then after that, we said, let's do rather than doing an online class and charging people, let's do an Instagram class from the house, move all the furniture out the way. We'll do an Instagram class and we'll see how it goes. So we said, yeah, right, Monday night, we're going to do it at 6 o'clock. And we've done our first one. And I think at any one point, we had like 250 people watching or doing, or I don't know.
Yeah.
But that was household. So that wasn't like just 250 people. That could have been 500. And then I was like, oh my God, that worked. So we've done Monday, Wednesday. And then after about 2 weeks, I was like, let's do a Saturday. We're not doing anything else. Let's do a Saturday as well. So we started doing all these Instagram classes, and the feedback was phenomenal. And we didn't charge. If anything, it was quite good for me mentally because, one, I knew what day it was, if that was the case, because we lost track of days, we lost track of time. It gave me something to plan, and it just gave us something to look forward to because the kids got involved in here. My wife got involved, and it was a real family thing. And one thing that was good at that time was the kids got to see how hard I was working. So they were in the house when I was doing it. They might sit in the kitchen and watch, or they might join in, but they could see how hard I had to work to try and make something work. So that's still in their head now. They know how hard we work for something. And then the government came to me and said, look, can we join on? So we've done a Saturday, every Saturday for 6 weeks. We've done a Saturday on their live Facebook page. And it's crazy figures that we hit. I couldn't believe it. That when we finished, I asked them, could you give me a quick sort of breakdown on, because I know they're good with their stats. Over the 6 weeks, over that complex, and all the people that could watch it after on YouTube and things like that, we hit 87,000 hits, basically.
Incredible. Yeah.
And as a small business, I can't afford marketing like that. I probably couldn't get any marketing out there to hit that many people. And actually, they can see what we do, and they can see who I am. They can see the family business that's going on and all the rest of it. So from a business side, that was the marketing side was insane. But what it also allowed me to do was sit back and set up an online booking system, which I didn't have in place because I didn't have time to do it when we first opened. It was too busy. So I got time to sit down, and that took a couple of weeks, but I had the time. And now going forwards, it's the best thing I've ever done for the business is have that booking system. I couldn't have opened after COVID without that system. And a lot of things we changed during COVID or when we reopened haven't gone back to normal. I've kept it like that because it actually worked better. From a business side, absolutely amazing. And we came back in such a strong position from that. And then from a personal side of things, I'm one of these guys, I've always been on that Ferris wheel or the hamster wheel, if you like, and not been able to get off it. And I'm thinking getting up at 5:30 and going to bed at 9:30 is the norm, and working all the way through is the norm. But I now know it's not. I got to spend some time with the kids, and it was a point where I wasn't seeing them. I could go 4 days without seeing them awake. So I'd go to work at 5:30. By the time I was getting home at 8:30, they're asleep. And that was my Thursday. And then I would see them on a Friday when I picked them up from school. And then I'd get Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then I'm back to work. And it was pulling on the heartstrings a little bit, if I'm honest. I wasn't really seeing them grow up. But if I always felt like that's the life I want to give them. I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this for them, trying to set up something for them. And, there is an element of doing it for myself, but it's mainly I want to give them something. I want to be a good role model for them in the sense of they see me working hard. So it gave me a chance to get off that wheel, and that sort of 10 weeks that we had, we made the most of it. And I'll put my hand on heart and say, homeschooling wasn't for me. I'm not the cleverest. I really struggled at school as a kid, and that's another podcast in itself, to be honest. What I was like at school to what I'm doing now and how I've developed. I don't know how I've done it. I really, really struggled at school. I struggle now. Got dyslexia, but I was never actually diagnosed back then because it wasn't a thing. It was just, you're not very clever. But like trying to do the kids' homework and stuff, it's not for me. I'm one of these dads that I come home, I want to have some fun with them. I don't want to be the heavy-handed dad, and it's not me. And I actually emailed one of the teachers and said, look, I will do what I can, but this is a hard enough time where we've got no money coming in and blah, blah, blah. I'm going to try and make this time as happy as possible. So we were sort of getting out and doing some stuff on the beach in time and coming back and having some fun in the house. And then if we did get a bit of work done, fantastic. And then they would join in the sessions, and it was amazing. And they learned so much with us during that time. But yeah, I could talk about COVID because It was a horrible time, but it was also, for me, I changed a lot about myself. There was a lot going on with me that had to change, and I did, and it set me up better going through life now. And God knows what I'd be like now if I hadn't stopped and carried on going. I would just wound myself. Personally, changed with me.
I think we all needed the kind of break from it, the little rest that COVID did give us. Moving on away from lockdown, white collar. Touch on that. How good are those events? How much work goes into them as well?
Oh, it's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, we started it in 2009. We brought it to Jersey. I remember we went to London to a guy, Spencer Oliver, who's an ex-boxer. He was running one, his first one, actually. Him and Jake, he's out of EastEnders. He does a lot of podcasts with him. I can't remember his real name. Yeah, it's Jake. Jake's his real name. Okay. But he does stuff with him, and they done their first show. So we got invited, and we went, and it was at the Connaught Halls in London. I remember watching it with my dad. Dad and I went. And I said, you know what? I loved it. I thought the concept was great. It was a bit spit and sawdust, if I'm honest. But I know what Jersey likes. And I know there's quite a lot of disposable income here and quite a lot of wealth. And there's a lot of sporting people here that want to challenge themselves as well. So I said, look, we can do it, and we can do it really well. So I remember coming back in 2009 and saying I was going to do it. And people thought I was mad. How are you going to train people for 10 weeks that have never boxed, never put on a pair of gloves to actually fight in front of 700 people? And still now, I mean, I've got Adam Budworth, who is he's the boss at Grant Thornton, who are our main sponsors for the white collar now. He done our first show. My accountant, Simon Hall, he's on our first show. Like Cameron Purcell, who he still trains with us. That was the guy I was talking about that done our first class. He still trains with us 5 times a week. Adam's in with us 5 times a week. Like, we've still got people that come to us from that 2009 show. It was phenomenal. Yeah. And from there, it just grew arms and legs. It created a lot of hype, a lot of buzz. It got a lot of money for charity at the time as well. And I think for the first 5 years, we're the only ones that done it. And then since then, there's been a lot of spin-offs that are all doing it, and they're all doing it well. They're all doing their own ways. But yeah, we brought it over here, and we're still going. I will be honest with you. I said to my dad, and Dad said, we both said to each other, we thought it had a lifespan of about 4 years. We're in an island of 110,000 people. How many people are mad enough to want to go from what they do in a nice lifestyle in Jersey to actually want to get in a boxing ring? But now on, we're only doing 1 a year. We're now doing 2 a year. There's probably 4 or 5 other companies doing them. Yeah. So we're probably there's probably 100 people a year, maybe even more, 150 people a year doing getting white collar boxing fights, which is mad. So we can't believe it's still going, but it's going from strength to strength. I mean, we had 2 last year, which was nice because we came out of COVID. We missed 2 years. Come out of COVID, had 2 years of that. I forgot how much time goes into it and how hard it is. But I also forgot how rewarding it is from my side and my coach's side and the boxer's side. I mean, it changes people's lives forever. Yeah. The friendships they make, and what we noticed as well is the jobs that come out of it. So there's a lot of people in different jobs on the island, and they create this bond, and then they'll be like, oh, we're looking for someone. Do you want to come work? And then on an interview basis, if they say they've done a 10-week white collar boxing camp, box in front of people, personally, if I see that on a CV, I'm like, you're the person I want. You've showed dedication, time, guts, courage, and you're prepared to raise money for charity and do stuff. They're the sort of people you want in your business, I feel. So it stands really good stead on CVs and things as well. Yeah. But I mean, the charity aspect's huge. We've now raised just over £522,000 for local charities. So that's phenomenal. From my side, I'm very proud to say we've raised that money for local people.
Yeah, incredible. Well, final question of the podcast. What are your main goals for this year? What is Boxing Business, or what's Ben Murray got in mind for 2023?
Do you know what? I'm one of those guys that I'll set a long-term goal. I know what that is. And then I try and work sort of a couple of goals in there as well, just to get me to that. If you've got one long-term goal, I find it's just, you lose a lot of stuff on the way just to get to there. And then once you get there, I don't know, maybe people are like me, but once you get there, you then want to go again. Yeah. So I like a marathon. If you've done loads of them, you've got your distance, you've got your 42K in there, or so you're through 26 miles. But each mile for me is going to be a goal. And then, all right, but when I get to that marathon, I finish that marathon, am I going to be happy? You're probably not. I want to do something else. So then you want to do an ultra, or you want to do something else. And that's the thing. If you set your goal and just aim for that one, then when you get there, you've got to set another one. Yeah. So for me, it's all about small goals. And I'm not one for making New Year's resolutions, really. But goal-wise, I have got my goals. I don't want to give too much away. But one goal, a business goal, is just to continue to grow the business as we're doing. But as we grow, we're opening a new gym in 2 weeks' time on Gloucester Street. So we're expanding the gym. We're creating a bit more business going on down the other end of town now as well. But as I grow, I'd never, ever try to lose sight on what I've got. I think people focus on what they want rather than what they've got. And I think if you focus on what you've got and you do that really well, the stuff that you want will come with that, with word of mouth or anything like that. So although I want to grow the business, and I do want to make Boxing Business bigger and better, I will always focus on what we're doing now. And that's one of my main things, is not to lose sight on what we've got, because I've worked hard for that and I don't want to lose that. And I would say my other goal for the year is just to work on myself a little bit more. Like I said about lockdown there, it changed me personally. I've changed a hell of a lot over the years. But I need to make a bit more time for myself. I've suffered with a chronic back pain for 7 or 8 years now. Never really done much about it. I've never got always too busy. But at the end of the day, my kids are getting older, running me ragged. And if I don't sort my back now, I won't be moving with them or doing anything with them. So my main goal this year personally is just to spend a bit more time with myself, look after myself a bit more, and just do stuff for myself, go for a walk or train or something as simple as that. Just makes me feel good. And I think that's one of my main goals personally. Yeah,
definitely. Keep up what you're doing. I think it's brilliant. Boxing Business. Just a brilliant way to get people in the gym, get people out of the house. Good for the mental health as well as the physical health. And what you're doing is brilliant.
Thank you. Supporting us as well, Dan. I mean, the work you do, my little fella plays for Jersey Scottish, the kids as well, and you're up there taking photos and doing all your stuff. I mean, it's so good. You're so proactive and getting out there and doing things. So, from that side, carry on doing what you're doing, because it the loop as well. It's nice to see all the football stuff at the weekends and like getting a bit of local stuff going, because we're all too on the national stuff and stuff in the UK, but we don't really see Jersey stuff. So you're keeping everything going that way. So that's superb as well.
Cheers, mate. Thank you for coming on.
Anytime. Cheers, mate.
Cheers. Thanks for watching Sportscast Jersey. Another episode will come soon.